So, what does consent mean to you?
To me, consent is when one person just agrees or gives permission for another person to do something. It means basically agreeing to an action or some sort of activity with knowledge that of what is going on or what could possibly happen or the consequences of it. And basically, for me, consent is also something that is not manipulated or coerced in any way possible.
And the final question I have for you is how do you give and get consent?
I would say giving and receiving consent, probably just being relaxed and uh, understanding of the situation that you're given, being respectful in the most way possible, most respectful, and just being able to understand what situation you're getting yourself into and understanding all the consequences and everything like before in order to make sure the situation ends the best way possible.
My first question I'm going to be answering is what is consent? To me, consent is giving a yes to any type of encounter. This could be medically, sexually, or any other type of encounter. It is an answer that you should be giving that is not hesitant or questioned. It should be very upfront and honest. It's something that can be taken back at any point in time. It's not set in stone. So then my second question is how do you give or receive consent? I would say you give consent by when saying yes, it's not hesitant or you don't question it. You are sure that you agree with what's going to happen. So then I would say you receive consent by only taking a yes answer. If someone says no or maybe or is unsure, that's not a yes, so that would not be getting consent. It's important to get you would receive the consent before anything happens, so any sort of medical procedure or sexual encounter, you would want to make sure that you would receive that consent before anything happens.
So, what does consent mean to you?
To me, consent is probably the most important. It's not probably, it is the most important part of a physical relationship. It is something that needs to be done and needs to be understood from both sides. I feel like there's this rap and like this like thought that consent like can be kind of weird because like you have to maybe ask or like there can be some friction between both sides, and the thought of asking being weird just needs to be put to the side and understood that it is the most important part, and that there should be no like guessing, no assumptions going on with it. It needs to be understood by both sides, and that can lead to a healthier relationship overall.
And the second question I have for you is how do you give and receive consent?
So I feel like it needs to be understood by both sides. So if that is the person is coming on in any sort of way that you understand completely, but that's the most important part is that I need to present myself and vice versa in a way that's completely understood. As I mentioned before, there should be no guessing or assumptions involved. So if it does come down to the fact of simply asking each other if moving on to a next step is okay, then that's what needs to be done. There can be somewhat of a feeling out process, but there needs to be it needs to be very slow and very understood. And eventually it comes down to, like I said, that communication part. And if that communication needs to be there, it needs to be there for it to be a healthy relationship.